Welcome back to another exciting episode of Level Up and Live, the go-to podcast for becoming the best version of yourself personally and professionally. I'm your host, Sean Myers, joined by my co-host, Ewan Heinemeier. And today, we've got a powerhouse episode lined up for you. We're diving deep into the very foundations of building a business, discussing the intricate dance between systems, processes, and the heartbeat of any successful venture, the people behind it. But that's not all. We're also shining a spotlight on a crucial aspect that often gets overlooked: the profound impact of purpose on your entrepreneurial journey. Whether you're a seasoned business owner, an entrepreneur navigating the corporate landscape, or an entrepreneur just starting out, this episode is tailor-made for you. So buckle up and get ready for some invaluable insights that could reshape the way you approach your business.
So repeat or not to repeat. In business ownership, the goal is to systematize everything. You want things to be predictable so that you can manage and look at the numbers and hopefully at some point remove yourself so that you have employees that are doing the job that you once had to do, so that you can then work on higher level things to grow your business, build your business. And you really, to get there, you have to go on repeat. To systematize it, it's got to be something that moves the needle to get to the next result. However, there is a pitfall with that. If you're only focused on repeating and you're not focused on the end goal, then you're just repeating for repeating's sake. And that is a surefire way to burnout, lack of in fulfillment. And me and Sean were just discussing this, and he had a beautiful story that kind of lined up perfectly with it. It was a real life kind of scenario, but and Sean, as a business owner, you've systematized beautifully. Like when I think of systematization, I think of Sean Myers. I really do. And yeah, so could you explain to the audience like what that means to you? And then the story you told me too, I was like, man, that is every human being. So yeah, take it away.
Yeah. So for me, it was, you go through these like steps in the process when you first start up that business, or the way I look at it is like, how I do one thing is how I do everything. So whether that's starting a business or starting to run or doing a prep for a marathon or doing an ultra or high rocks or competitions or whatever it may be, you have to start somewhere. And for me, it's like systematizing, because typically if you study the greats, if you study the people that are doing it really well, they're doing the same thing over and over and over again, right? And so what I mean by that is, whether that's waking up every single morning at the same time and then eating the same thing, the same shake, the same nutrition, to 99.9% of the people, that just sounds like mundane. That sounds like you're just doing the same thing over. It sounds boring, right? But if you really study and take a step back and dissect on your own life, like, and this is what I did 2 years ago, like on my own life and my own business, is I have everything systematized, everything structured, and everything laid out the way I want it. But I'm not truly living. I'm just existing and doing the same thing over and over and over again. And let's be honest, one of my core values, family core values, is adventure. And this is not adventure. This is not spontaneous. I'm doing the same thing over, but I know it's going to get me to where I want to go. But dadgum, this is just mundane. I'm just tired of beating the same thing over and over and over again.
What's funny is though, that's what you set out to do. Like
yeah,
when you're not thinking down past that, when you're first getting going in business, it's like, I've got to get it on repeat because I know that's going to work. And when that get it on repeat, then I'll be free. But then you get it on repeat.
Yep.
And now you're just on repeat.
Yes, exactly.
Because there was nothing behind it. And right. I think you've said that so many times, right?
Yes. Yeah. If there's nothing behind it, and I think that's what's led me to explore, get curious, and research. Because when I got super honest and brutally honest and transparent, I'm like, dude, I have one life to live. I am 30 something years of age right now, and people around me are dying. People around me are getting sick. I'm like, dude, I need to do something with it now. And that's how I live my life. I think about death all the time. And I think about, and that sounds morbid, but it just allows me to get out of the funk, get out of the rat race, get out of just existing and start living. And so I still have the systems and structure and the discipline, all that in place, but now it's for a purpose. Now it's for a reason. Now it's for a why. And now I have something to strive for, right? It's funny. I'm going to share a quick little story. We were on our run this morning with my boy Isaiah and Ewan. So I did 3 miles before they got here. We got here and we did 5 miles and a 1 mile and a half loop around in our community. And we were running, and it's funny, my boy Isaiah, shout out, he said, what do you guys, because we have a marathon February 18th. You have to follow us on social media, but this is a quick little like side note. And he said, I'm gonna what are you guys eating at the end of the marathon? And this was like a complete random.
I thought the same thing.
I was like, wait, what? I was like, what do you mean what are we eating at the end of the marathon? I'm like sitting here thinking about the steps, the preparation, the nutrition, everything that it takes to run that marathon. But this dude's thinking about the food at the end of the finish line.
I love it.
But it's exactly with what we're talking about, right? Because he's focused on what it is that he's trying to obtain at the end. So think about it as that food, as simple as a food, he spelled it out, right? Like Jersey Mike's, loaded,
He was excited.
He was super excited. But that's exactly what we're talking about with the purpose. If you have that purpose and why, because now everything that's systematized for him up until that point, but he's focused whatever makes you happy, whatever you're looking forward to, you have something to look forward to, because most times we don't look forward to the mundane, the getting up, the going to the office, the doing the same things over and over and over and over again on what it takes to get to where you want to go. But if you have that burger or that Jersey Mike's, in my case, it's that purpose. Yeah. And if you study the greats, the purpose.
Shout out to you, the episode that we did. Was it last week on the planner or 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, I think we did the episode on your planner.
Yep.
That I have been doing. And one of the things I enjoyed most about the thing that you brought to it was, and I never got it before, was that when you schedule at the start of the week on Sunday morning, you put down 3 things that you are really looking forward to that week. And I've never done that before. I'm like, well, I know the things that are coming, but when you write them down and then you've got your schedule going on and something difficult comes up that week, and you said this, you look at the good thing you have coming up, and it makes that difficult thing nowhere near as hard. As opposed to, I know for me, there's so many difficult things. I've got to do this, and then, oh man, I got to do that, and then this. And they're all difficult things, customers, deals I'm working or building the business. But then having that really exciting thing, I often think about my kids. Oh, I'm going to do that with them later. Or this is coming up at the end of the week. And it totally changes the state of knowing that there's good things coming. I have not lived like that. I grew up in Scotland. I don't know if it's like a suffering thing. Like you just grin and bear it. There's a saying, if you're spared, like, oh, we're going to go to the cinema this weekend. If we're spared, like if God spares us, like that's this dour kind of thought process, but it just made me realize, man, having those enjoyable, that's okay. It's okay to allow yourself to have those things to enjoy at the end of it. I don't know why. I think a lot of people don't have that. They're just doing the mundane, just doing it. I got to go to work tomorrow, do the thing. Weekend's coming up, going to do the same thing there. Where's the enjoyment? Like, what's the purpose? Where's it going? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So shout out to the planner that you can download for free.
Yeah. So, with the transition into your question, like the systematization and what that spells out for me, once you understand the power and grasp that, like behind what it is that you're trying to do, and whether that's that goal or the outcome, and to me, there's different steps too. It's like what we were sold. Like because I'm 30, so I'm millennial. And so I listened to like the Grant Cardones, the Ryan Stumans, like all these guys, all they did was sat down and just beat in the ground, goal, 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 goal. You got to do this, 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 and this. So I was like, all right, cool. Well, I'll do that, just over and over and over again. And then I think there's a lot of us out there, maybe you listening to this, that can resonate with what I'm saying as far as like, okay, cool. I've done that for multiple years now, but dang, this is like exhausting. I feel like I'm on repeat, some of these things. So if you find yourself, feeling the same way that I felt, one of the things that's really helped me get over that hump, get unstuck and lack of fulfillment is to really dissect and reflect on what it is that truly allows me to come alive. Right. And so for me, it's like doing things out of my comfort zone, doing things out of my element, running my first marathon or an ultra. And the funny thing is, none of this has anything to do with how I run business, or how I talk to employees, or how I talk to my wife. But the way I look at it is, if I'm shooting for what it is that I want to do, and I look forward to that on what that is, and it's aligned with my why, and it makes me come alive, guess what that's going to do for me when I show up and talk to my employees, talk to my wife, and do these different things? I'm a completely different animal. I'm a completely different beast, because I've talked to somebody that was just existing, and somebody that has just living the mundane life. I've been that guy. And I've talked to somebody that is alive, that is doing the things outside of his comfort zone, outside of his element, and taking that leap of faith in these different areas of life. And it just shows up and brings the baseline up in whatever it is that you're trying to do.
I think what you're talking about is so subtle too. Like it's so easy to miss, and yet it's the difference between a good life, a fulfilled life that you enjoy, versus one where you are just stuck. Because what you're talking about is just this little change in the concept, the way that you view it, and it's making you show up completely different, like you're saying. And if you don't continually show up like that, you're continually showing up another way. The way you're talking about is going up. It's positive. It's this energy that is good. It's wholesome. It's going to a place that is progress minded, but it's encompassing all the relationships and the the other things you want to do in your life, your hobbies, and that's it feels good, right? Like there's a positivity there. As opposed to if you're not focusing on that and you're just focusing on getting the result, the goal, and you're not monitoring how you're showing up in the other little areas, you're literally compounding the other direction. Yeah. Like you might miss that good conversation with your wife and it goes south, or you might miss that positive thing, that thing you could have done where you were fully present, enjoying what it was that you're doing, as opposed to you're just stuck in the systemization of, I got to do more of more, and there's no purpose behind it. And then you end up being in this stuck, lost, quicksand environment. Yeah. And most of the time, man, this is it right here. Most of the time it's because you're alone and you don't have other people, like-minded people that are in the same boat as you to help catch you. Like we talk about our mastermind group. There's people like we catch that with ourselves. We talk about, we get it out in the open, as opposed to before we were all in that group. We were all on our own, in our own heads, getting on with what we were getting on with, and feeling the loneliness, not knowing that's what it actually was. But by being together, we were able to be like, oh man, that's that area you should probably look at. And I'd be like, yeah, you're right. I didn't even know that about myself. And I would never have known it if I hadn't had these other minds tell me, because I was able to open up. And then when I hear the other guys talking, man, we've been able to discuss these total blind spots, and they've been able to tweak and change relationships with their wives. Their kids are doing better. Yes. You know, their wives are happier and their businesses are going up. More people are reaching out to them. Their energy has completely changed, and people gravitate towards that because it's super rare, right? Do you not think that's true?
What's interesting is the last 30 seconds, your body language has changed.
Yeah, I got fired up right there.
You got fired up.
Yeah, dude.
Because you've seen it in your own life.
Yes, totally seen it in my own life. It's so funny you're talking about Grant Cardone, and I highly respect him for all that he's done. The book, the 10X book, great book. And if I was to listen to it again, I'd listen to it a completely different way. But I remember when I first listened to it, I was in medical equipment sales and I was needing a boost. I think it was my third or fourth year and I was doing well, like 6 figures, but I was like, I want more. And so I listened to this and I listened to it in the sense of just do more, 10X, everything, keep going. I remember 2 years later, I was like, I'd just been doing more and more, and it's sudden I was doing so well. I was doing well enough to be like, I sat and I was like, wait a minute. What am I doing it for? It took 2 years or more. And I'm like, what? Okay, so the next step is then more of this? But where was it going? Nowhere. And I was not happy. Making tons of money, not happy. And it could have been different. In fact, it is so different now. Now I'm doing even more than I was then, but I'm significantly more aware of what's going on and significantly happier. And that is because of the perspective, being around other guys, other business owners, other high level minds, and getting perspective and realizing you can't just keep putting things on repeat. to have success for success sake, because success, what you think success is, what I think it is not actual success. Yeah. Like, it's not real. It's like more money in the bank's not the end game. Funnily enough, we were told it was, but we never thought past that. Once I have the money, oh, life will be great. Not true. Not true. You can have all the money and it be great. You can have all the money and it not be great. What's the difference? You know?
This year, like talking with a lot of the coachees and my coaching clients, they were running into this very similar struggles, and it was everything from leadership and, you know, not having enough time, not having enough balance in their own lives to do the things that they wanted to do. They didn't know it because it was in the rat race. They was just existing. They were doing the same thing, like you said, like the Grant Cardones, do 10x, do 20x. And we stick with what we're familiar with. So if you're doing that for multiple years, you know, if you're in your upper 20s and 30s, you've probably been doing the same thing over and over and over again. Sure, you may have money in the bank. Sure, you may be doing super well in one area of life, but then we neglect all these other areas of life, right? And the reason I'm qualified to say that is because I'm speaking to my older self. And so once I started dissecting and pulling back the layers of like, okay, well, I've lived the life that's most common and most traveled, which is what society sells us. You got to do this, and this. And here's the outcome. Here's the result. Here's the goal. But let's be honest, when you have that money in the bank, like Ewan said, or you hit that goal that you've always wanted to hit, that feeling is cool for like 5 seconds. Yeah. And then right after that, snap of a finger, you're like, what's next? And so if you're in your teens or 20s, you're like, yeah, what's next? Right. Yeah. And so that's how you may be feeling it. But if you're in your 20s, you're like, yeah, what's next?
Because all people heard right there real quick, all they heard was money in the bank. And they're totally going to bypass what we're saying. I would have. And I'm trying to think to myself, how could I have caught myself? Surely, was there someone out there telling me this back then? Do I remember? Well, I don't think there was a guy on a podcast saying what I'm saying right now, which was there a guy telling me? Well, no, I'm the guy telling you right now, and the money's in the bank. It's not gonna matter.
And the beautiful thing about it is when you have somebody that's in their 40s telling you that's qualified, and I'll be the first to attest to Ewan and what he's saying. And him behind the scenes right now, he's very super emotional, which is very powerful. And Ewan doesn't get like that very often, but it tells me that behind the scenes, if you're listening to this, that everything that is coming out of our mouths is with conviction. And with conviction, man, if you could just take one mustard seed, one thing away and apply it in your own life. And if you can catch this in your 20s or 30s and turn this around before you get to the 40s, 50s, 60s, you're going to be so far ahead of your peers. But it's like what Ewan's saying is like most guys, most gals, they don't understand it until it's too late, until they pick their head up and go, holy cow, right? And then what have I done with my life? I've just been on repeat for the last 20, 30 years. What happened? That's the number one question. What happened? And then if you study people on their deathbeds, the number one regret is not doing the things that being kind and loving and not doing the things that they wish they would have done and taking that leap of faith. Well, in order to do that is you have to do the things that we're talking about, which is surround yourself with individuals or plug yourself in, right? And I think that's just so powerful because I know how it is to be a lone wolf and put it on repeat and systemization and all that stuff is important. I still do it to this day. I still have the system.
You know, you had said so many times during our mastermind group that you were a lone wolf and you're doing it on your own. And I was like, I remember thinking to myself, yeah, I'm a lone wolf too in my mind. I'd even say it. And it was almost like a disconnect to be like, we almost all of us were like, no, you don't understand. I'm a lone wolf. And then I'd be like, no, you don't understand. I'm a lone wolf. Yeah. And then it's like, we almost looked at each other at one point and be like, we're lone wolves together.
100%.
And yet really what we were doing the whole time was being together, and we weren't at that moment as we were sharing it. And since then, I don't feel like a lone wolf anymore. Do you feel like that?
Oh, dude, 100%. We talked about this morning at breakfast. And the interesting thing about it is you listening to this, like even us in our own lives, we're like, oh, well, I have my wife, I have my kids, I have my friends, but I would challenge you and argue that it's all surface level. And what I mean by that is when we have surrounded ourselves and collaborated by taking the leap of faith and being vulnerable our own selves. And like, that's where it starts. That's step one, is being vulnerable with that one guy, with that one girl. When you're vulnerable with them, you can dive deep. So we want to go 24 inches deep versus 2 inches deep, which is what I've said this for several years now. There's a lot of surface level stuff going on. Think about all the people that are around you, whether it's your employees, your boss, your wife, your kids. It's all surface level talk. You get home from a tired day and you're saying, hey, wife, hi, how was your day? You don't actually go into a deep conversation, have a meeting with them and enjoy, like, what is it that you want 2024 to look like? What is it that you want? What's important to you? What do you enjoy doing? What do you not enjoy doing? Right. And so
the test is, but yeah, I talk about that stuff. Well, okay, grab a family member and start telling them about how you're going to help improve your employees to increase your bottom line, or the difficulties, the sinking sand that you feel like you're in because you're at the top of you're the owner. You're the one that's responsible for everything that happens, or the results that you are required to get in your business, entrepreneur. The test is you start talking to a family member or a friend about that, and you'll see the eyes glaze over real fast because they can't relate. They cannot connect, because if they're not in that world, if they're 100%. Not doing that,
yes,
they'll definitely be there to console you and say, that sounds terrible. That sounds tough, and they can totally be there for you. But when it's someone of a peer and they lean in, like, yeah, I know, hey, I was in the same boat and this is what happened to me, or I'm feeling the same way right now, or I completely understand what you're saying, and you lean in together. It's when you have an hour-long conversation with someone about it and it's back and forth of the understanding there, that's completely different. If you don't have that, you are a lone wolf, right? Because who else are you going to talk, or who are you going to have those conversations with other than yourself in your own head? Yeah. And that's pretty miserable place to be,
yes,
as opposed to being able to get that out. And really, as soon as you do, you are leveling up. The moment you do, you're leveling up because it's out in the real world. Someone else has heard it, that understands, and is spitting it back to you. And you've never had that before.
I just got shivers on my body. You talking about that? I just got shivers, man. Like, you just spoke to me. And what I mean by that is like, that was me. I felt so like, I'm just beating a dead horse every single day, and it was just like, it was almost like there was no hope. There was no, like, I had all these goals and these destinations and all this stuff was going well. And from society's standpoint, it's like, dude, you're crushing it. But like within, I was like, no, I'm not crushing it, because there's not a fulfillment. There's a lack of, right? And so what's interesting, I was recently reading in my devotion this morning, and in this devotion, man, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. It was about Tom Brady. Apparently Tom Brady, which is, one of the GOAT, all time, one of the best NFL quarterbacks. And anyways, in this devotion, it talked about how he was interviewed at one time. And in this interview, they had asked him, like, you've won all these Super Bowls. You're married to a supermodel. You're a model yourself. Like, you're this good looking guy. You have everything going for you. And in the devotion, it talked about how Tom Brady was like, it's still not enough. It's still not enough. And it just hit me. I'm like, that is what society sells us. Like, it's always like, that's what we're talking about. 10X and Grant Cardone. It's like, there's always more and more and more. There's always going to be somebody sexier than you. There's always going to be somebody with more money than you. There's always going to be something greater or more, right? And if you're not fulfilled in vitality and joy within, and if you're not aware of that and mindful about that, it is miserable. And at the end of the devotion, it talked about his, like, the number one thing is like with Tom Brady is like how it used him as an analogy, even to somebody to his magnitude can still be unfulfilled and unhappy, right? And at the very end of the devotion, it said the happiest people in this world, and I'm not trying to go like full blown on this, but the happiest people in the world, like, understand, like, they look within and they study God's word, right? And Christianity and lean on him. And I'm not saying you have to do that, but I just thought that was a aha moment. Like, man, you can have all the money in the world, all the goals, everything in the world, but I'm willing to put money on it that you are unfulfilled, that you're
getting divorced.
Yeah. Divorced, overweight, all these different things. It's not if, but when. Well, I'm good right now.
Yeah.
You may be saying, okay, cool. You're going to listen to this episode 2 years from now and go, dang.
Yeah.
Right. And the reason I'm saying that is because it's not like I just crawled out of the hole and just started, like, scratching my head and going, hey, I'm just sprinkling fairy dust and shooting from the hips. It's because I've talked to dozens of individuals going through the same thing that I've went through.
It's an awakening.
Yeah.
And awakening takes time,
Yeah.
right? Like what you're saying, it's someone might hear this today, and in 2 years' time, they'll be in a different place, or they'll be in the same place and hear it and be like, man, no, I'm really get it now. But once you really get it, it takes time, because you're like, this is a new world.
Yeah.
Like when you're not alone anymore, or you have someone to, or you have that purpose, or people to help you see a different way. Because it's, at this point, it's just a fact. It's clear. You can't argue. No one could win this argument that anything else out here is going to bring that inner peace that you're actually looking for. Like that Tom Brady was the perfect example. If he has that much and still not happy, still missing or whatever, how could anybody else say, well, when I get it, it will be good? It's just not that way. It's an internal, we're trying to fix an internal problem with external situations, and that's not possible. Everybody wants the external stuff, but that comes if you work on the inner game. It comes so much faster. And here's the ironic part. You don't really care when you get it.
Yeah.
It's just great to have, but you're content and peaceful. And if it was taken away from you, you'd still have the contentment and peace. I think that's true for, let's say we lost everything. If we had the mastermind group, the camaraderie, and all the things were gone, the success was gone, I would be like, all right, I'm still pretty happy.
100%.
Like, I don't think that's going to change my, like, I don't care what people think, like, anymore. Like, we were talking about that. I'm past that. Like, that's been my main goal, is to get past, like, my successes are for me. I'm happy with myself. And so getting anything more to impress anybody, that's off the table. Thank goodness. And so the whole purpose then is, it's got to be a peace within. And talking about God, I mean, that's what my ultimate, like, peace right there. I think that's probably the biggest thing that's changed my whole mind and everything. And again, that's just me personally, not preaching that to anybody, but that's my experience, and it's been yours too. But, yeah.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is, like, if you're leveling up and you're living life, right? You're always looking for 1% ways to become a better version of yourself, right? And for me, and it's interesting because you listen to guys like Ed Mylett and all these different guys, it's like they're in their 50s and 60s. So now I'm in my 30s, and you said it earlier, it's like, I wish I would have listened to what we're talking about now in our teens and 20s, right? And applied that in our own lives. And so now I'm like, I snapped my fingers. I'm like, I filter and use the barometer with what these guys are saying. And I'm very cautious on who I listen to.
Yeah.
But look what we're talking about with Tom Brady in these devotions. And you can have a guy like Tom Brady, but if he doesn't have this, this, and this, he's still unfulfilled. But then you look at a guy like Ed Mylett, has everything just like Tom Brady, but he's talking about, Christianity and God, spirituality, and all these different. So I'm like, even in my own life, I'm like, because I'll be the first to admit, I haven't, in 2024, one of my goals is to level up in my spiritual well-being, right? And so for me, what that is that means searching for answers, getting curious. It doesn't have to be that's my identity.
What a beautiful place to be too.
It is. And it allows me to read the word and then look and then have hope, right? And so that's simply what we've been talking about these last 25 minutes is get curious, do research, right? And apply it and use the filter in your own life, because we all know that just existing and doing the same thing over and over and over again, sure, it may get you to where you want to be, but you're going to pick your head up and go, holy cow, 5 years of my life went by and I've neglected all these other areas of life. I haven't dissected or got curious or researched on what it is that I truly allows me to come alive.
Dude, to full circle this, we start off with talking about systemization. But it all relates, man. Like,
It all relates.
because we're systemizing. It doesn't matter if you've got an official systemization system, or if you think you don't, you do have a system. You just
100%.
don't know what it is, and that's probably not a good sign. And there's nothing, you absolutely want to systematize things if you want to be successful. But it just comes back to everything we just said, the purpose behind where it's going.
So somebody listening to this, Ewan, as we wrap things up, right? Yeah. Somebody listening to this is, hey, Ewan, cool. I hear everything that you're saying. I get it. Yeah. I resonate with what you guys are saying. And I can't come through the podcast and this audio right now and hang out with you guys in the room. What's the answer, man? Like, where do we start? What do we do? What have you guys done that has allowed you to get to where you are? If they haven't heard or as far as like the steps, obviously the action steps and the steps, what would be one piece of advice that you would give?
It's not going to be sexy and it's not going to be what people want to hear, but it is slowing down, stop, and just analyze. Where are you at?
Yeah.
Where are you currently? How do you feel about where you are currently? Why did you click on this podcast? We were talking about that earlier. Why, when you're scrolling through all the podcasts and you see the thumbnail, you see the title, what were you looking for? Which ones make you click on them? What problem are you trying to solve? And is it another how-to something? Because if it's another how-to, we've really kind of hit all over that. Another how-to is not going to fix the issue. It's a why to, So I think, and I'm getting that straight from you. It's so important to get your why. What do you want it to look like? Yeah. And why have you systematized?
Why do you have these systems in place?
Yes, why? What's it going to lead to?
Answer that.
Yeah. Because if you don't have an answer to that, I would say first, you don't need to know anything else past that answer to that question. Once you get the answer to that question, that answer to that question might lead you to more questions, which is great. More questions is probably the answer. Yeah. You need to question what you're doing.
Yes.
Why are you doing it? And get to some kind of place to where it's actually going to mean something. Yeah. What would you say?
Man, I think my biggest piece of advice would be to, like you said, I agree with you 100%. Go slow to go fast. I preach this all the time. We talk about this all the time. It applies in all areas of life. Go slow to go fast. Because if you bite off more than you can chew, if you're like, dude, I get it, I'm listening to this audio, give me the answers, right? Well, here's the thing. What I've learned in life is there's no shortcuts, right? We can give you the blueprint and the layout, but at the end of the day, it's not one size fits all. It's a personalized journey. And what that means is your life looks different than Sean's life and Ewan's life. All of our lives look differently, right? And so what I'm in go slow to go fast, we've got actually additional resources in our show notes where we actually slow you down. Like, even though I'm not sitting here, hovered over you, but the work that we've put in the show notes is, we've got 3 different additional resources and links in the show notes. And one of them, I can't remember which one. I think it was the planner. You click on it and you put your name and email in, but it allows you to download this template. And in the template, from my experience with individuals like Ewan and all my coachees over this last 2023, every single one of them have given pushback. You're listening to this, you're like, I don't want to do that. I don't have the time to do that. Yeah, that's exactly what the guy 31 minutes ago would have said, right? But now you've listened to this podcast. Now it's time to level up and live and apply the things that we're talking about. So the guy that's existing does nothing about it, doesn't click on the link. But the guy that actually does something about it, that goes slow to go fast and wants to level up in 2024 and live and become a better version of themselves, is the one that clicks on that, goes into there, goes slow to go fast, and follows the blueprint, right? Is it perfect? Absolutely not. We're imperfect human beings, but it'll allow you to dissect and ask the questions, like Ewan said, to figure out what it is that allows you to come alive in your own life. Because 9 times out of 10, you're just existing. You're just showing up, doing the same thing, mundane, over and over and over again, surface level conversations. But this allows you to peel back the layers and figure out what it is that allows you to come alive. Because let me tell you something, when you figure it out, what that is, and when you spend the time on that, I don't care if it takes a day, a week, a month, a year, it does not matter. But when you figure that out, you become an unstoppable force. Nothing will slow you down. Nothing. And you will break through walls. Your family, your kids, everybody will notice from afar, and your baseline will improve. You will continue to level up. Your business will flourish. You will have more money than you do right now. You will 10x everything across the board. Rest assured, because you spent the time, energy, and effort to work on the thing that matters the most. And that is the number one. That is you within, your feelings, your thoughts, your emotions, what it is that you want.
Man, can't top that, dude. Come on.
Let's go.
That's what it is right there. And that's 1%. Me hearing that, I'm like, in the past, I've been like 100%. Let's go right now. No, downloading the planner, and you might not follow it at all. It might be 90. Like, you just writing something down on that planner at all, or just, you don't even have to get the planner. Write it down on a piece of paper, whatever you want to do.
Right.
That's 1%. And then find another 1% and another 1%. And over time, go to slow to go fast. Everything you just said, the 1% starts stacking up and compounding, and then the things start happening.
100%.
No shortcuts.
Yes.
And Yeah, it took forever for me to understand that. And yeah, so that's available to everybody. Man, we're fired up. Keep coming back. There's so much more coming. And yeah,
we're working on some big things behind the scenes. We are. He won't say it, but I'll say it. We're working on some things behind the scenes. So rest assured, if you feel this, if you resonate with this, and you're enjoying the Level Up and Live podcast, we appreciate you. We hear you. We see you. And rest assured, if you're thinking like, man, I want to reach out to these guys, listen to me. Ewan knows, and he can attest to this. When guys or girls DM me, email me, text me, he knows that it fuels the fire, baby, and it allows us to provide more content, more value to you, and create and solve these different areas with the different templates and stuff like that we're talking about. So don't hesitate to reach out. We love to hear from our audience and listeners, and we appreciate you.
Level up and live, man.
Level up and live. And that's a wrap for today's episode. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the intricate web of systems, processes, and the human element that makes a business truly thrive. Now, before you go, don't forget to check out our show notes for a deep dive into the topics we covered today. Find that gold nugget of wisdom you might have missed. If you've liked what you heard, show us some love by leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback fuels our passion to bring you more content that matters. And hey, if you know a fellow business owner, entrepreneur, or entrepreneur who could benefit from today's discussion, do us a solid, hit that share button and spread the word. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, purpose isn't just a buzzword. It's the compass guiding your journey. Until next time, keep building, keep growing, and keep chasing those dreams.